Hey, how's it going, guys? So we're gonna be checking out another Star Wars video. If you're new channel, welcome. This one is called the most horrific ship in all the Star Wars, Darth Nihilus. To be honest, I'm not really surprised that Darth Nihilus has the most horrific ship in the galaxy or in all of Star Wars, because he is a very terrifying person. Because this man, well, I don't know, man. This figure can literally consume worlds, consume anyone just to stay alive. And he's not even like a physical form like flesh and blood. He's just a force of I don't want to say force conduit, or I don't know what the right word is, but force conduit. The mask is pretty much what's like keeping him alive. So he is one of my favorite characters, Darth Nihilus. His powers, his being, his story, everything, being part of the Sith triumvirate. So next to Darth Sion and Darth Treya, because he is an amazing character. So I'm really curious to see what his ship is, because I never knew about his ship. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it can do. Nothing. So this is brand new to me. So without anything else, let's jump into the video.
Today we wanted to take a look at one of the most terrifying zombie ships in all of the lore. A
zombie
ship that
ship?
appropriately belonged to Darth Nihilus, the Lord of Hunger. Greetings, Acolytes, and welcome back to the Archives. Every Dark Lord needs their ship, from the alchemically enhanced capital ship of Naga Sadow, with the power to make a sun go supernova, to Vader's multi-city-sized Executor. The flagships of the Sith are not just how they get around, it's how they introduce themselves. The size, power, and even look of the ships are meant to invoke a very specific type of fear and intimidation on their enemies. But perhaps there is no other ship that invokes fear.
That's from Ender's Game.
Ship in today's holocron, Darth Nihilus' Ravager. Many folklore tales exist around the galaxy of so-called ghost ships floating around from one sector to another, the darkness between the stars. But somehow, the most famous planet-eating Sith Lord made his nightmare a reality. The Ravager was, in every sense, a literal zombie ship brought back from the grave. From the moment Nihilus escaped the ruins of Malachor V, all the way to his very last battle at Telos IV, the Ravager stayed with him all this time, as it had no other choice. And today, we are going to be looking at the galaxy's most horrific and terrifying ship, and explaining why the ship of Nihilus takes him to a whole nother level. The origins of the Ravager are quite simple. Initially, it was one of the Republic ships that served during the Mandalorian Wars under the Jedi Revan. It was a Centurion-class battlecruiser, which was rendered basically inoperable after being so heavily shot by Mandalorian weaponry. When the mass shadow generator was activated on Malachor, the Ravager would be one of the many ships yanked straight out of orbit, colliding with the planet's surface. Soon after Nihilus awoke and began to feed, becoming the monster that we know, he would find the dead ship lying on the surface of Malachor. Then, using the dark side of the Force instinctively, he would lift the ship from its grave and make it space-worthy yet again. This sounds simple, but we need to be very clear about the scope of what just happened. Nihilus literally pulled an entire ship out of the ground and is making it fly. The ship was destroyed completely. There are many holes in the hull, bearing the wounds of the Mandalorian War. Yet,
Dude, that is
Nihilus
so cool.
is using the Force to hold it together, giving it strength, the power for the engines to function. This ship flies through space, which is astounding considering the amount of massive holes and damage that the ship has had, especially considering the size of the ship. Massive damage in the hull, enough to fly other ships completely through. All of these holes are just exposed to open space. As the Ravager drifts through the darkness between the stars, electricity sparks and sputters out of its open wounds. Energy sparks in the dimly lit corridors of the ship, laying abandoned and tattered. Most of the normal computer systems in the ship are completely offline and covered in dust, with the only parts of the ship that has any semblance of operation being the bridge and one single hangar. In order to make the ship even moderately habitable though, although the husk of a man the Sith did not need it, he allowed the particle fields to remain online to create a minimal atmosphere. But other than this, there was very little life support systems on board. This was because the only two beings with mortal souls that actually lived on the ship were Nihilus' shadow hand, Visas Mar, and the Onderonian colonel, Tobin. The rest of the ship was crewed and staffed by literal zombies, corpses, undead beings that Nihilus
Oh,
took control
wow.
of with the Force and made his slaves. They all stayed on the bridge, endlessly operating the ship, ensuring it survives even in death. Because Nihilus controlled both the ship and its crew, one may say that the zombie pilots of the Ravager were one, a single decomposing organism. They were driven and held together by the will of one being. Already a horrific figure in and
Dude,
of
that is
himself,
amazing.
but this zombie ship was literally a living hell. What's more astounding is that despite being a dead ship, the Ravager was surprisingly formidable, from what we understand. Its deflector shields were not operational, yet the ship would withstand a heavy assault of blaster fire from energy starcrafts and even other Republic ships. The Ravager was so strong that during the Battle of Telos IV, the Republic and the Mandalorians were forced to make an alliance, and the Mandalorians sent a small strike team inside of the Ravager to set charges. They had to blow the ship up from the inside because they were not able to bring it down the normal way from the exterior.
They had to make a
Without
truce?
deflector shields. We can only imagine that this was yet another one of Nihilus's tricks and the dark side at use. Somehow his ability to hold the ship together also reinforced the whole based off of his force and his will alone. Some have even speculated that once the spirit of Darth Nihilus began to drift away, torn apart by the dark side, and the Sith Lord was forced to conceal his spirit within his mask and robes, that during this ritual, Darth Nihilus also systematically imparted his spirit against his very ship. The Ravager was a part of Nihilus, forever tied to his power, and the only thing connecting him to the living world. On top of consuming entire planets, Nihilus made his arrival in a true ghost ship. Not the stuff of legend, but the stuff of nightmares, holding it together given his own power, commanding a crew of zombies, and reinforcing the whole all completely in his abilities in the Force. This kind of ability is unprecedented and little touched upon. There have been Sith Lords who have dominated the minds of armies, and those who have been able to lift ships, but for Nihilus to be able to make the Ravager space-worthy and hold it together for as long as he did, even doing so subconsciously, it was truly a feat in the Force on a monumental scale. Many often remember Force users for their abilities in combat, or the largest thing they are able to lift or obliterate. He made his terrible mark on the galaxy by his ability to consume other beings of their very life, leading up to the feeding of entire worlds. However, pure destructive power is one thing, but having such a refined control is another. The amount of mental domination and willpower displayed in keeping a vessel as large as the battle cruiser afloat and doing so perpetually is mind-boggling. It must be that when Nihilus became a wound in the Force, and as a result of the mass shadow generator, he felt a sort of connection with the Ravager. Both of them were severely wounded, considered dead, and their lives destroyed by this super weapon. But Nihilus himself gave the Ravager a second chance at life, by raising it from the grave to serve his will. This bond with the ship and Nihilus had to be what made all of this possible. But anyway, my friends, this is without a doubt the most terrifying ship in the history of the galaxy, and how Darth Nihilus bound its will to his own. What are your thoughts on this insane and monumental feat of controlling an entire vessel through space and fortifying it with the Force alone, seemingly doing so on an unconscious level? And had you heard of the Ravager, the true ghost vessel, before this?
No, I never did.
Thank you as always, my friends, for visiting the channel today and your continued support. And as always, may the Force be with you.
So there you guys have it, the most horrific ship in all of Star Wars, Darth Nihilus' Ravager, and I gotta say, it really lives up to its name. But I thought it was gonna be the ship on the thumbnail, as you guys can see, but because I mean that ship right there looks pretty terrifying, but it was something else entirely. But either way, wow. So start off again, I did not know about Darth Nihilus' ship, the Ravager, and on top of that, that was insane. Now I mean insane. This man literally just resurrected a whole ship after it was destroyed by a super weapon, and he fortified it, he makes it function, he resurrected the entire crew as zombies through his Force abilities alone. He is that powerful, and if he could do it subconsciously, oh wow, that's a whole different level. And if you know how powerful it has to be if the Jedi and the Mandalorians are willing to make a temporary truce just to take him out. That is insane. So this was a great video. It was worth watching. Man, I learned something new. But anyways, there's another great video in the books. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video because I really did. And also make sure to hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. And thank you so much for your support, guys. I really do appreciate it. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.